The starship Aurora descended slowly through the pink and purple clouds of Aurelia. Outside the windows, endless gardens stretched as far as the eye could see. The plants glowed softly, lighting the landscape with colors no human had ever seen before. Some were tall as trees, with leaves that shimmered like glass. Others were low and delicate, forming patterns on the ground that looked almost like art. Inside the ship, Tara pressed her hands against the glass. She had always dreamed of exploring new worlds, but nothing had prepared her for the beauty of this place. "It's alive," she whispered to herself. She could feel energy moving through the air, like the garden was watching them. "Careful, Tara," said Reno, adjusting a control panel. "We still need to land safely. One wrong move, and we'll be buried in those glowing vines." He smiled, but his eyes were wide with awe. The landing was smooth. The ship's engines hummed and then fell silent. Outside, a soft breeze made the glowing leaves sway, and small, delicate lights danced around them, like fireflies. The team began unloading equipment and supplies. The humans had come to study Aurelia, a planet unknown to the rest of human colonies. Their mission was simple: observe, learn, and report back. But from the first step onto the soil, it was clear that this planet had its own rules. Tara knelt down and touched the soft ground. Tiny lights flickered where her fingers pressed, as if the soil itself was alive. "Reno, look at this," she said, pointing at a cluster of flowers. Each petal opened and closed slowly, almost like breathing. The two of them watched in silence, sharing a feeling that went beyond words. As night approached, the garden changed. The bioluminescent plants glowed brighter, forming paths of light through the trees. The team turned on their lanterns, but the soft natural glow of Aurelia made the artificial light almost unnecessary. Some plants moved gently as if greeting the newcomers. Tara felt a shiver run down her spine. "It's like it knows we're here," she said. Reno laughed nervously. "Or it's just showing off." But even he could not hide the wonder in his eyes. The garden seemed to stretch and breathe, alive in ways humans had only imagined in stories. That evening, the team gathered in the main research tent. The walls were transparent, giving them a clear view of the glowing forest outside. Myra, the mission leader, addressed the group. "Our goal is to study the life here carefully. Remember, we don't know how Aurelia reacts to humans. Keep your distance until we understand more." Tara sat quietly, sketchbook in hand. She began to draw the glowing plants, trying to capture their shapes and colors. Each line seemed to pulse with energy as if the plants themselves were guiding her hand. Reno, meanwhile, set up sensors to measure energy flows, light patterns, and other strange phenomena. Hours passed quickly, and soon the first night was fully upon them. The garden became a symphony of colors and movements. Tiny lights floated above the ground, weaving in patterns that were almost musical. Tara whispered, "I've never seen anything like this. It feels intelligent." Suddenly, a soft sound echoed through the garden, almost like laughter, or the wind singing. The team froze. "What was that?" asked one of the technicians. The sound repeated, more clearly now, a gentle hum that seemed to rise and fall with the movement of the plants. Tara stepped closer to the glowing flowers. "I think it's trying to communicate," she said. Her heart raced. The idea that a garden could be alive in such a way was incredible, almost unbelievable. Reno moved closer, his sensors picking up subtle pulses in the soil and air. "The energy readings are unusual. It's like the plants are aware of us," he murmured. The night deepened. The garden's lights shifted in patterns, creating a path leading deeper into the forest. Tara felt a pull, a curiosity she could not ignore. "I want to see where it goes," she said softly. Myra, watching from the tent, nodded but cautioned her to stay safe. As Tara and Reno stepped carefully along the glowing path, they noticed that the air felt warmer and lighter. Tiny plants brushed against their hands without touching them. The hum grew louder, forming a rhythm that almost matched their heartbeat. The garden seemed to welcome them, yet there was a quiet warning in the patterns, a sense that they must respect this place. By the end of the first night, the humans had learned one important lesson: Aurelia was not just a planet. It was alive in ways humans had never imagined. Every plant, every light, every sound seemed connected. And in the distance, hidden among the glowing leaves, they sensed that something intelligent was watching, waiting, and perhaps, learning about them. Tara looked up at the glowing canopy overhead and whispered, "We have much to learn, and I think it will teach us wonders beyond anything we imagined." The night in the garden was only beginning, and already, the humans understood that Aurelia was no ordinary world. It was a world of mysteries, challenges, and beauty, a world that might change them forever. The sun rose slowly over Aurelia, casting golden light over the glowing garden. Even in daylight, the plants shimmered faintly, their colors more delicate but still mesmerizing. Tara was already awake, wandering through the garden with her sketchbook in hand. Every step she took seemed to trigger tiny flashes of light from the plants beneath her feet. It was as if the garden remembered her from the night before. "Good morning," Reno called from behind, carrying a small sensor pack. He smiled, though exhaustion was visible under his eyes. "I stayed up most of the night monitoring the energy readings. The patterns we saw are unlike anything on Earth." Tara looked at him, excitement in her voice. "It's responding to us, Reno. It's not just light, it's like it's thinking." She knelt to touch a cluster of low, glowing flowers. As her fingers brushed the petals, they opened wider and pulsed gently, sending a ripple through the surrounding plants. Tiny vines stretched toward her hand but stopped just short, as if testing her intentions. Reno frowned slightly, his scientific mind racing. If the plants are reacting this way, they might have some kind of network, maybe even memory. "We need to study this carefully." He placed sensors in the soil and on the vines, watching the data appear on his portable monitor. The readings were incredible: subtle electrical currents, rapid energy pulses, and patterns that changed depending on how Tara moved. As they explored, Tara noticed something unusual. Beneath the dense foliage, partly hidden under moss-like growth, were shapes that did not belong to the garden. Long, smooth lines of metal and strange geometric patterns glinted faintly. "Reno, look at this," she whispered. Reno knelt beside her, brushing the soil away. This is machinery," he said, awe in his voice. "It's old, but advanced. Not human, definitely not ours." The two examined the partially buried structures. Tubes, panels, and small mechanisms were interwoven with roots and vines. Some parts emitted soft pulses, almost in rhythm with the garden's lights. "This garden, it's built on top of something," Tara said, her eyes wide. "Something alive and intelligent, maybe even a civilization." Her mind raced with possibilities. Humans had discovered many planets, but finding one with both living intelligence and ancient technology was extraordinary. Reno carefully connected a sensor to one of the glowing panels. The device hummed, and a series of lights flashed in patterns across the surface. "The energy readings match the garden," he said. It's like the plants and the machinery are connected, part of one system. Tara reached out again, letting her fingers hover above a glowing leaf. The leaf bent slightly, almost bowing, and then pulsed in a rhythm that seemed to match her heartbeat. She gasped. It's communicating, somehow. Maybe it learns from us as we move. For hours, the two explored, documenting every detail. Tara sketched the glowing flowers, the vines, and the hidden machines, while Reno mapped the energy flows. Every now and then, tiny lights darted through the plants, forming shapes and lines that felt like messages. At first, the humans did not understand, but slowly patterns emerged. The garden seemed to respond to curiosity, care, and respect. Aggressive or careless movements caused plants to retract or dim, while gentle gestures triggered bursts of glowing colors. By late afternoon, Tara sat on a soft patch of glowing moss, exhausted but thrilled. It's like a living library, she whispered. Everything here, the plants, the lights, the machines, they're recording, remembering, teaching. Reno nodded, still monitoring the sensors. Suddenly, a small group of flowers rose slightly from the ground, forming a shape that looked like an arch. Light passed through it in a pattern that reminded Tara of letters, though they were not human letters. She leaned closer, trying to decipher it. Reno, look. It's giving us a sign. Reno's eyes widened. Signs? Maybe it's trying to tell us something. Or warn us. Either way, we need to pay attention. He recorded the sequence and noted its reaction to their presence. Night fell again, and the garden glowed more brilliantly than ever. This time, the humans noticed that the light patterns were more complex, almost like symbols dancing across the plants. Tiny tendrils reached out gently, brushing hands without harm, inviting contact. Tara realized that Aurelia was testing them, teaching them to interact respectfully. We're not just studying this world, she said quietly to Reno. We're learning from it. And I think it's learning from us too. Reno smiled, understanding her meaning. We need to be careful. This isn't just a discovery, it's a responsibility. As the two looked out over the glowing gardens, the hum of energy pulsed steadily around them. The hidden machines, intertwined with living plants, emitted subtle rhythms that made the entire landscape feel alive. Tara's heart swelled with excitement and awe. Aurelia was more than a planet. It was a living, breathing library of life and knowledge, and humans were just beginning to understand its wonders. And somewhere in the shadows, hidden among the glowing leaves, the garden seemed to watch, waiting, and perhaps, guiding them towards something even greater. The night fell over Aurelia like a soft, glowing blanket. The garden shimmered brighter than ever, each plant radiating gentle light. Tara and Reno walked carefully along the glowing paths, their lanterns turned off to avoid disturbing the delicate patterns. The air was alive with soft whispers of energy, almost like a song that came from the plants themselves. I've never seen anything like this, Tara whispered, her eyes wide. She reached out toward a cluster of floating lights, and they swirled around her hand, leaving trails of soft color in the air. It's beautiful, and alive. Reno nodded, adjusting his sensors to record the strange energy patterns. The readings are incredible. The energy here responds to movement, sound, even thought. I think the garden is aware of us. As they continued deeper into the garden, a sudden movement caught Tara's eye. Shapes of light flickered between the trees. They were taller than any human and seemed to shimmer with their own energy. Reno, look, she whispered urgently. The shapes floated gracefully, moving with purpose. They were not animals. Their forms were too perfect, too luminous. Small pulses of light radiated from them, and with each pulse, the garden seemed to respond. Vines stretched toward the figures, flowers turned to face them, and the air vibrated with gentle hums. Reno held his breath. "I think, they're the guardians of the garden," he said softly. "Alive in a way we don't fully understand. They're made of energy, not flesh." Tara stepped closer, fascinated. "They're beautiful, and intelligent. I can feel it." One of the figures moved toward her, and the plants nearby glowed brighter, forming a path. She reached out slowly, and the energy figure pulsed in response, as if acknowledging her presence. The guardians did not speak in words. Instead, light pulses and small movements conveyed meaning. Tara noticed patterns forming, shapes, colors, and rhythms that seemed almost like language. She raised her hand, and the figure mirrored her motion, sending a wave of glowing tendrils through the garden. She realized they were trying to communicate. Reno, more cautious, studied the readings. "The energy they emit interacts with the plants and even with our equipment. They're not dangerous, but they're testing us. We need to move slowly and show respect." The humans spent hours observing and interacting with the night visitors. Tara learned to mirror their pulses, creating small patterns of light in the air. The guardians responded, forming intricate shapes that moved and danced around them. It was as if the garden and its guardians were teaching the humans to connect without words. Suddenly, a louder pulse echoed through the trees, and more guardians appeared. They floated around the humans, forming a circle. Tara felt a warm sensation in her chest, as if the energy itself was welcoming her. "They're showing trust," she whispered to Reno. "We've earned it, somehow." Reno smiled, though he was still cautious. "Trust is good, but we must remain careful. This world has rules we don't fully understand." He observed how the guardians' energy shaped the plants around them, bending vines to form bridges, opening flowers that revealed hidden lights, and creating patterns in the soil that seemed like messages. The night deepened, and the humans began to notice something remarkable. The guardian's presence made the garden even more alive. Flowers glowed brighter, vines moved in elegant arcs, and the air shimmered with energy. It was a living dance, a symphony of light and life, and humans were a part of it now. Tara reached out again, letting her hand hover over a cluster of energy tendrils. They wrapped around her fingers gently, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. She realized that the guardians were teaching her to feel the garden, to connect not just with her senses, but with her mind and heart. Reno, recording everything, said quietly, "This is beyond any science we know. It's not just alive, it's aware. And it's teaching us." Hours passed like minutes. The humans and guardians moved in harmony, exchanging light and energy. Every action was careful, respectful, and full of curiosity. By the end of the night, the humans had learned something important. Aurelia was not a passive world to study. It was a partner, a teacher, and a living library of knowledge. As they returned to the research tent, Tara looked back at the glowing figures and whispered, "I think this is only the beginning. The garden, the guardians, they have much more to show us." Reno nodded. "And we have to be ready to learn, carefully and respectfully. We are guests here, not masters." Outside, the guardians continued to float among the glowing plants, their light pulsing gently. The garden hummed with energy, alive and aware, as if it had witnessed a new chapter begin, humans learning from a world far older and wiser than themselves. And somewhere deep in the glowing forest, hidden among flowers and vines, the garden waited, watching and guiding, ready to reveal secrets that could change everything humans thought they knew about life in the universe. The next morning, Aurelia greeted the humans with soft sunlight filtering through the glowing leaves. Tara and Reno had slept lightly, their minds still full of the images of the night visitors. As they stepped outside the research tent, the garden seemed different. The lights flickered in new patterns, and the plants swayed as if greeting them, but there was a sense of testing in the air. Tara knelt down to observe a cluster of flowers. They moved slightly away as she reached for them, then pulsed in a rhythm she had not seen before. "It's waiting for us to prove ourselves," she whispered. "It's not just teaching, it's challenging us." Reno frowned, adjusting his sensors. "The energy readings are shifting. The garden is changing its behavior. We have to be careful. If we disturb it, it could close off areas or even react defensively." Their curiosity overcame caution, and they moved deeper into the garden. As they walked, the glowing paths they had followed before were now blocked by twisting vines that had formed natural barriers. Flowers they had touched yesterday now closed tightly, and bioluminescent tendrils formed shapes that seemed to warn them. "This is more than a lesson," Tara said. "It's a test. We need to show we understand respect, patience, and care." Reno nodded. He extended a hand toward the nearest barrier, and the vines shifted slightly in response. Carefully, he mirrored the motions he had observed the night visitors using with the garden's energy. The vines uncurled slowly, opening a narrow path forward. Tara smiled. "It's responding, we just need to move correctly." As they continued, the garden created more complex challenges. Certain paths disappeared under glowing leaves, forcing them to find new ways forward. Flowers and small plants formed shapes that resembled gates or symbols, guiding their movements. Tara realized the patterns were consistent. They were teaching lessons in observation, patience, and harmony. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air, vibrating through the ground and their bodies. A group of glowing plants lifted slightly, forming shapes that blocked the path. Tara and Reno stopped. The shapes moved in patterns, pulsing light in sequences that seemed like instructions. "It wants us to follow the rhythm," Tara said. She lifted her hands, moving them slowly as if dancing, and the lights followed her motion. The path ahead gradually opened. Reno was amazed. "The garden is not just alive, it's aware of our intentions. It tests understanding, not strength. We have to think, feel, and act carefully." Hours passed as they navigated through this living maze. Every challenge required observation, patience, and cooperation. Sometimes the garden's energy tested them with sudden bursts of light or shifting vines, but Tara and Reno learned to adapt. They discovered that moving in harmony with the plants, matching their rhythms and responding to subtle cues was the key to progress. By afternoon, they reached a clearing filled with tall, glowing flowers. The air was thick with energy, almost tangible. The plants arranged themselves into a pattern that looked like a doorway, pulsating with welcoming light. Tara knelt, touching the soft petals. "We passed this test," she said softly. "The garden trusts us now, or at least, it wants to continue teaching." Reno studied the energy readings. "It's remarkable. The challenges aren't random. They're designed to teach observation, respect, and teamwork. The garden is intelligent on a level we've never encountered." As they rested in the clearing, small light shapes floated around them, like the night visitors but less solid. Tara realized these were the garden's way of encouraging them, guiding them through the lessons. She reached out, letting the tendrils wrap gently around her hand, feeling the warmth of connection. This world is alive in every sense, Tara said, gazing at the glowing canopy above. It's testing us, teaching us, but it's also showing us what respect and curiosity can achieve. Reno nodded. We are learning to move with it, not against it. That's the lesson. Evening fell, and the garden began to glow brighter than ever. The energy pulses became rhythmic, like a heartbeat, and the humans understood that Aurelia had accepted their presence temporarily. The challenges of the night would be greater, but Tara and Reno now had the first real understanding. Success came from patience, respect, and harmony. As they returned to the research tent, they noticed subtle movements in the shadows. The night visitors had appeared, observing from a distance. Their light pulses were gentle, almost congratulatory. Tara whispered, "They're pleased. Or maybe they're curious to see how we handle the next challenge." Reno smiled. Either way, we're learning more than we ever expected. This is not just a garden, it's a teacher, a guide, and a test. Aurelia is alive, aware, and waiting for us to prove we are worthy. And in the distance, deep in the glowing forest, the garden continued to shift, bend, and pulse. It was alive, intelligent, and patient, preparing the humans for the next step in a world where every leaf, light, and vibration held knowledge beyond imagination. The next morning, Aurelia glowed gently under a pale sun. Tara and Reno stepped outside, their excitement undimmed from the previous night's discoveries. The garden seemed to recognize them, its lights pulsing softly as if greeting old friends. Paths that had once been blocked now shimmered open, inviting the humans deeper into the forest. This place, it feels alive in a completely different way today, Tara said, her voice filled with wonder. She knelt to touch a group of glowing flowers. The petals bent toward her hand and pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. It remembers us. I think it knows we learned its lessons. Reno adjusted his sensors, noting subtle changes in the energy patterns. The readings are more stable now. The garden responds to us positively when we act with care. It's forming a bond. They walked together along a glowing path, observing the garden's subtle movements. Vines curled gracefully to form bridges over small streams, flowers opened wider as they approached, and light pulses formed patterns that felt like messages. Tara began experimenting with the energy, moving her hands in slow, flowing motions. The plants mirrored her gestures, creating intricate patterns of light around them. It's teaching us new ways to communicate, Tara whispered. Not with words, but with energy and motion. Reno nodded. And we're learning to listen. To respond without forcing anything. That seems to be the key. Hours passed as they explored deeper areas of the garden. They discovered small clearings filled with plants that had never appeared before. Some were tall and elegant, with leaves that reflected every color of the spectrum. Others were low, forming intricate mosaics on the ground. Tara reached down and touched a patch of ground covered in tiny glowing flowers. They shifted and formed shapes that resembled symbols. She felt a rush of excitement. These symbols, they're like messages. Maybe instructions or stories. Reno knelt beside her, observing the energy readings. The patterns are complex. They respond to how we move, how we touch the plants, even to our emotions. This is a form of communication. A living library encoded in the garden. As the sun began to set, the garden shifted once more. Bioluminescent plants glowed brighter, and the paths seemed to rearrange themselves, guiding the humans toward a large clearing. In the center, a pool of water reflected the sky, its surface dotted with floating glowing flowers. The night visitors appeared, hovering above the water in gentle arcs of light. "They're showing us something," Tara said. She stepped closer, extending her hands. The energy figures pulsed in response, and the flowers on the water's surface rose slightly, spinning and forming patterns that mirrored the Guardian's movements. Tara gasped in delight. "It's a dance, they're teaching us to move with the garden." Reno joined her, moving his hands in harmony with Tara and the Guardians. The flowers and light around them responded instantly, forming waves of glowing patterns that flowed outward, illuminating the entire clearing. The humans realized that the garden was not just teaching observation but collaboration, harmony, and balance. "This is incredible," Reno said, his eyes wide. "We're not just visitors. We're part of the garden's rhythm now. We're learning its language of movement, light, and energy." Tara smiled, feeling a deep connection with the world around her. "And it's learning from us too. From how we move, how we think, how we care." She reached out to the nearest guardian figure, letting the light wrap gently around her fingers. The pulse was warm, almost like a heartbeat. "It's trust. The garden trusts us now." Hours turned into night. The garden's lights shifted in patterns that seemed almost musical. Small creatures of light moved between the plants, leaving trails of glowing particles in their wake. Vines lifted to form arches, flowers opened to reveal hidden chambers, and the entire forest seemed alive with energy that spoke to the human senses. Tara and Reno explored these wonders together, documenting patterns, movements, and energy flows. They experimented with the interactions, discovering that their emotions, intentions, and gestures all affected the garden's responses. Every discovery brought joy, wonder, and a deeper bond with Aurelia. By the end of the night, the humans had learned more than they could have imagined. They had formed a connection with the garden, understood its lessons of respect and patience, and experienced its beauty on an intimate level. Tara looked around the glowing clearing and whispered, "We've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to learn." Reno nodded, smiling. "And we'll learn it together. We're no longer just observers. We're part of this world now, and it's part of us." Above them, the night visitors hovered, their energy pulses soft and approving. The garden itself seemed to hum with contentment, as if acknowledging the humans' growth. Aurelia was alive, aware, and willing to teach those who approached with curiosity, patience, and respect. And somewhere deep in the glowing forest, hidden among twisting vines and luminous flowers, the garden waited for the next lesson, preparing the humans for challenges, wonders, and mysteries that would test their hearts and minds. The morning sun rose over Aurelia, but the air felt tense. Tara and Reno were preparing for another day of exploration when distant lights appeared through the trees. At first, they thought it was part of the garden's natural glow, but the shapes moved unnaturally mechanical and purposeful. "Reno, look," Tara whispered, pointing. "Those aren't the guardians or the garden. Humans." Reno's face grew serious. "It looks like another team, an expedition. But why here? We're the only ones supposed to be on this planet." Soon, a group of humans emerged from the forest edge, carrying equipment and scanners. They moved quickly, ignoring the glowing plants and disturbing the energy patterns. Some trampled delicate flowers, while others tore vines aside to clear paths. Tara's heart sank. Aurelia, which had welcomed and taught them, now seemed to pulse with tension, its lights dimming and shifting erratically. "They don't understand," Tara whispered. "They're destroying what we've learned to respect." Reno stepped forward. "We have to stop them before they do serious damage. But we can't fight with force. The garden might react unpredictably." Tara nodded. Together, they moved carefully into the forest, using their understanding of the garden's energy to guide them. They discovered that by moving in harmony with the plants, they could influence the environment around the intruders. Small vines lifted to block paths, glowing flowers created barriers, and pulses of light distracted the newcomers without harming them. The rival team was confused. "Why won't the path stay open?" one of them complained. "These plants, they keep moving." Tara and Reno watched from a distance, communicating silently through gestures. The garden responded to their intention. Vines formed walls, flowers curved to guide the intruders away, and glowing tendrils created illusions of pathways leading nowhere. The humans realized that Aurelia itself was defending itself, but it only responded to those who moved with care. "We can't let them destroy this place," Tara said, determination in her voice. "We have to guide them out without angering the garden." Reno agreed. "We've learned to move with it. Let's use what we know." They stepped into the open, showing themselves to the intruders. "Stop," Tara called gently. "You're harming the garden. You don't understand it yet." The newcomers laughed, thinking it a simple warning. "It's just plants. There's nothing alive here beyond the soil. We're here to collect resources." Reno's jaw tightened. "You're wrong. This garden is alive and aware. It won't let you destroy it without consequences." At that moment, the garden seemed to sense their intentions. Vines lifted higher, forming a wall between the teams. Glowing lights pulsed in complex patterns, creating a maze that confused the intruders. The humans stumbled, frustrated, while Tara and Reno moved easily through the paths they had learned to navigate. Tara reached out toward the vines, communicating with the garden through gestures. The vines obeyed her, forming barriers that blocked the intruders from reaching the delicate areas. Tiny glowing flowers rose into the air, creating a gentle but firm barrier. Reno directed subtle pulses of energy with his hands, guiding the intruders away from sensitive zones. "Follow the paths we show you," he called. "Respect the garden, or you will get lost." The rival team grumbled, frustrated and bewildered. They attempted to push forward, but every step led them deeper into confusion. The garden reacted to their aggression, creating shifting barriers and glowing walls of light. It was clear the planet itself was defending what it had nurtured for centuries. Hours passed, and eventually, the intruders realized they could not advance. Exhausted and frustrated, they retreated to the forest edge, grumbling about strange plants and shifting paths. Tara and Reno watched, relieved, as the glowing garden returned to a calm, harmonious rhythm. Tara breathed deeply, her heart still racing. "Aurelia, it protects itself. And it protects those who respect it?" Reno nodded, looking at the glowing forest. "We are not just explorers here. We are guardians too. We have to learn from this world, live with it, and protect it. That's our responsibility." As night fell, the garden glowed even brighter than before. The night visitors appeared, hovering gently above the paths, their pulses soft and approving. Tara and Reno felt a deep connection with Aurelia, stronger than ever. The humans had faced a challenge not from the world itself, but from others who did not understand it. And they had learned that knowledge, respect, and harmony were the keys to survival and growth. Somewhere deep in the glowing forest, the garden pulsed with quiet energy, ready to teach new lessons and reveal secrets to those who approached with curiosity, care, and respect. The night was calm again, but Tara and Reno knew that Aurelia's wonders and challenges were far from over. The morning sunlight bathed Aurelia in soft gold and violet hues. Tara and Reno stepped outside the research tent, greeted by the familiar glow of the gardens. After the confrontation with the rival expedition, the forest seemed even more alive, its lights pulsing gently, as if acknowledging their courage and care. "We did it," Tara whispered, brushing her fingers across a cluster of glowing flowers. "We protected the garden. And now, it trusts us completely." Reno smiled. "It's more than trust. We've learned its language, its rhythms, and its patterns. We're ready for what comes next." The two moved deeper into the forest, guided by the gentle light of the glowing plants. The night visitors appeared, hovering above and forming intricate shapes in the air. Their pulses were welcoming, almost like applause for the humans' understanding. The garden itself seemed to breathe around them, alive in every leaf, vine, and tendril. As they walked, the ground beneath their feet began to shimmer. Flowers parted to form a glowing path leading to a large clearing they had not seen before. In the center stood a circular arrangement of bioluminescent plants, taller and brighter than any they had encountered. The air was thick with energy, vibrating softly with life. Tara knelt at the edge of the clearing. "It's incredible. The patterns, they're forming something." She traced the glowing shapes with her hand, feeling warmth and rhythm pulse through her fingers. The plant's glow shifted, forming symbols and lines that resembled a library, an entire record encoded in living energy. Reno studied the energy patterns with awe. The garden, it's sharing knowledge. Stories, science, history, everything from the civilizations that once lived here. He reached out slowly, letting the light pulse through his fingertips. "We can understand it, but we must continue to move with respect, as we always have." Tara and Reno spent hours exploring the clearing. The plants responded to their presence in subtle ways, creating pathways to hidden chambers and revealing patterns that told stories of a civilization long gone. Floating lights moved like pages turning, showing them designs of machines, methods of energy use, and even philosophies of life. It was a living archive, a testament to the intelligence and care of Aurelia's creators. "This is the greatest secret of the garden," Tara said, her voice soft. "It wasn't just a place of beauty, it's a teacher. And now, it's teaching us everything it can." Reno nodded. "We're not just visitors anymore. We're part of this world, part of its legacy. Our role is to learn, protect, and carry its wisdom forward." As night fell, the garden glowed brighter than ever. The night visitors formed patterns above them, their energy pulsing in harmony with the plants. Tara raised her hands, letting the light wrap gently around her. She felt a profound connection not just with Aurelia, but with all life, and with humanity's place in the universe. "The garden is alive, intelligent, and patient," she said. "It has shown us that respect, curiosity, and cooperation can unlock wonders far beyond what we imagined." Reno smiled, feeling the energy of the world around him. "We've proven ourselves worthy. Now, we can help this knowledge reach humanity, but in a way that respects Aurelia. We are guardians as much as explorers." The two of them walked back toward their base, leaving the glowing clearing behind. Every step they took caused flowers to pulse, vines to sway, and tiny lights to dance. The garden had acknowledged them fully, and they felt honored to carry its trust. Days passed, and the humans built their base in harmony with Aurelia. Structures were minimal and careful, designed to avoid disturbing energy flows. They documented the garden's lessons, shared its knowledge among themselves, and learned to move with its rhythms. The planet had become a teacher, a guide, and a partner. Tara often wandered into the forest alone, sketching patterns, feeling the pulse of the energy, and listening to the whispers of light. Reno explored the hidden machines, learning how the ancient technology and living plants were connected. Together, they discovered ways to preserve the garden's beauty while learning its secrets. One night, under the twin moons, Tara and Reno stood at the edge of a glowing clearing, watching the garden pulse in quiet harmony. The night visitors hovered above, their energy soft and approving. "We've learned so much," Tara said. "And yet, I feel like this is just the beginning." Reno nodded. "Aurelia has shown us what it means to respect life, to learn from it, and to grow with it. That's a lesson humanity needs everywhere." The garden hummed softly around them, a living library, a teacher, and a friend. It had tested them, challenged them, and welcomed them. Aurelia's secrets were no longer hidden, they were entrusted to humans who understood the responsibility that came with knowledge. As the glowing lights spread across the forest, Tara whispered, "We are part of this world now. And it is part of us. Together, we can carry its wisdom forward, not just for ourselves, but for everyone." And in the quiet of the night, with glowing plants, dancing lights, and patient energy surrounding them, the humans realized the truth: Aurelia was more than a garden. It was alive, aware, and willing to share its greatest treasures with those who approached with care, respect, and an open heart. The night in the garden was complete, and the journey of humanity on Aurelia had reached a moment of harmony, a bond between life, intelligence, and wonder that would last forever.